Every 53 seconds, a brand new Ford F-150 rolls off the line in Dearborn, Michigan. That's faster than the time it took you to click on this video. For 47 years in a row, the F-Series has been the best-selling vehicle in America. Not the best-selling truck, the best-selling vehicle, period. It outsells every car, every SUV, every crossover by hundreds of thousands of units a year, and almost every single one of them is born inside a single sprawling industrial fortress on the banks of the Rouge River, a factory so massive, so vertically integrated that it has its own power plant, its own steel processing operation, and a workforce large enough to fill a small city. Today, we're going inside the Dearborn truck plant, the beating heart of the Ford Rouge complex, to see exactly how America's most iconic vehicle gets built. From flat sheets of aluminum and steel to finished trucks driving themselves off the assembly line, this is the story of how 1,500 parts, hundreds of robots, and thousands of skilled American workers come together every single day to build the F-150. Let's get inside. Segment 1. The Rouge, a factory like no other. To understand the F-150, you first have to understand where it's built. The Ford Rouge complex isn't just a factory. It's a piece of American industrial history. Henry Ford built it in the 1920s with a single vision. Raw materials would come in one end: iron ore, coal, rubber, sand, and finished automobiles would drive out the other. At its peak, the Rouge employed over 100,000 people. It had its own docks, its own railway, its own foundry, and even its own glass plant. Today, the Rouge has been modernized into one of the most advanced manufacturing facilities on the planet. And at the center of it sits the Dearborn truck plant, the only facility in the world that builds the F-150 in this configuration. The numbers here are staggering. The plant spans over 600 acres. It produces tens of thousands of F-150s every single month, and it's part of a manufacturing network that stretches across 16 plants in 4 states, every one of them feeding parts into this one final assembly line. But before any of those parts arrive, the F-150 begins its life as something much simpler: a coil of metal. There's segment 2, stamping, where metal becomes body. Step 1 happens at the on-site stamping plant, located right inside the Rouge complex itself. Massive coils of high-strength steel and military-grade aluminum, some weighing as much as 20 tons each, are unwound, flattened, and cut into precise blanks. These blanks then travel into some of the largest stamping presses in the world. Picture this: a single press, 4 stories tall, capable of generating thousands of tons of force. The flat sheet of metal enters at one end. A massive die slams down with enough pressure to instantly reshape the metal into the contours of a fender, a door panel, a roof, or a tailgate. Each press cycle takes only a few seconds. And in that brief moment, what was a flat sheet becomes one of the recognizable curves of an F-150. What makes the F-150 special is its mixed material body. Ford famously transitioned the F-150 to a high-strength aluminum body to cut weight by hundreds of pounds, improving fuel economy and payload capacity without sacrificing strength. The truck's frame, however, remains high-strength steel. Combining the two requires specialized stamping techniques because aluminum behaves very differently than steel under pressure. It springs back, it tears more easily. It demands different lubricants, different die temperatures, and a completely different forming approach. By the end of the stamping process, dozens of formed body panels are stacked, scanned, and shuttled directly to the next stage, the body shop. And this is where things get really interesting, because almost no humans work there. Segment 3, the body shop, a robotic army. Walk into the F-150 body shop, and the first thing you'll notice is the sound. It's not the clang of hammers or the chatter of workers, it's the rhythmic whir and snap of hundreds of orange industrial robots, moving in perfect choreography, welding, riveting, and bonding panels together with surgical precision. This is one of the most automated body shops in the entire automotive industry. Over 90% of the work here is performed by robots, and there's a very specific reason for that. The F-150's aluminum body cannot be welded together the same way a steel body would be. Traditional spot welding doesn't work well on aluminum, so instead, Ford uses a combination of self-piercing rivets, structural adhesives, and friction stir welding to join the body panels. The robots punch tens of thousands of rivets into every single truck, each one placed with millimeter-level accuracy. The process starts with the underbody, the floor pan that forms the foundation of the cab. Robots stack and join the underbody panels, then move on to the side aperture panels, the entire side of the truck, including the door openings and rear quarter panel. These massive panels are lifted, positioned, and clamped into place by robotic arms that weigh several tons themselves. Once the sides are attached, the roof comes down, then the front structure, then the rear. In a matter of minutes, a flat collection of panels becomes a recognizable F-150 cab, what Ford engineers call the body in white. The body in white then travels through laser measurement stations where dozens of points are scanned to verify dimensional accuracy. If any measurement is off by even a fraction of a millimeter, the system flags it before it ever reaches the paint shop. And speaking of paint, Segment 4, the paint process, multi-layer magic. The paint process multi-layer magic, the F-150 paint shop is a sealed climate-controlled fortress. Air filtration is so strict that workers in some areas have to wear clean room-style suits. Why? Because even a single speck of dust can ruin a paint job, and Ford applies multiple layers to every truck. The process starts with a deep cleaning. The bare body shell is dunked into a series of wash tanks to remove any oil, dust, or contaminants left over from stamping and welding. Then comes the first true layer of protection, electrocoat or e-coat. Here, the entire truck body is submerged in a massive tank of electrically charged paint. An electrical current draws the paint into every nook, every crevice, every weld seam, coating the truck inside and out with a corrosion-resistant primer. This step is critical because it's what protects the F-150 from rust for decades to come. After e-coat, the truck moves into the seam sealing booth, where robots and technicians apply specialized sealant along every joint and seam. Then come the sprayed layers, a primer coat, a base color coat, and finally a clear coat that gives the truck its showroom shine. Each layer is applied by robotic spray arms in a perfectly controlled environment. Between coats, the truck travels through high-temperature ovens that bake the paint, ensuring it hardens into a durable, smooth finish. By the time the F-150 exits the paint shop, it's been painted, baked, inspected, and re-inspected, sometimes by both robots and human quality teams. The result is the deep, glossy finish you see in the showroom, but more importantly, a protective shell engineered to withstand decades of sun, salt, gravel, and weather. Segment 5, the powertrain, a 16-plant network. While the body of the F-150 is being built in Dearborn, its mechanical heart is being assembled hundreds of miles away, across multiple states. Ford's F-Series production isn't just about one factory. It's a sprawling national network of 16 plants spread across 4 states, including engine plants, transmission plants, casting plants, and stamping facilities. Each one specializes in a different piece of the puzzle, and each one feeds into Dearborn on a precisely timed schedule. The engines arrive ready to install. Everything from the workhorse 2.7-liter and 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6S to the legendary 5.0-liter Coyote V8. Some come from Ford's Cleveland engine plant in Ohio, others from Lima, Ohio. The 10-speed automatic transmissions are built at Ford's Livonia and Sharonville plants. Axles, drive shafts, and suspension components funnel in from supplier facilities across the Midwest. What makes this network work is timing. Every component arrives at Dearborn just hours, sometimes just minutes, before it's needed on the line. This is called just-in-time manufacturing, and it's one of the most logistically complex operations in American industry. A delay of even a few hours at any one of those 16 plants could halt the entire F-150 production line. When the engine, transmission, axles, and front suspension all converge in Dearborn, they get pre-assembled into a single unit called the drivetrain cradle, and what happens next is one of the coolest moments in the entire factory. Segment 6, decking, where the truck comes together. This is the PlayStation 5, a sleek, futuristic box hiding the result of one of the most ambitious global manufacturing operations ever attempted in consumer electronics. From the outside, and featuring its interior wiring, dashboard, and some basic components, hangs from an overhead conveyor suspended above the factory floor. Meanwhile, the chassis, with the engine, transmission, front suspension, axles, and wheels already attached, rolls along on a separate line below. The 2 lines run parallel, and then they sync up. The body lowers down from above. The chassis rises from below. Computer-guided actuators align the two with millimeter precision. Workers, sometimes called the marriage crew, wait beneath the body, ready to guide it onto the chassis. In a matter of seconds, the body and frame meet. Bolts are driven home. Hoses are connected. Electrical lines are joined. What was two separate machines becomes one complete truck. This decking process is one of the oldest techniques in automotive assembly. Henry Ford himself pioneered the basic concept a century ago. But at the modern Dearborn truck plant, it's been refined into a perfectly choreographed dance between humans and machines. From this point forward, the F-150 is no longer two halves. Segment 7, Interior Assembly, Building the Cabin. It's a single, rolling vehicle, and it still has a long way to go. Now the truck enters the trim line where its interior comes to life. This is where the F-150 starts to look like the truck you'd actually drive home. Dashboards arrive at the line pre-assembled, already loaded with the gauge cluster, infotainment screen, climate controls, and miles of wiring. Workers lift them into place and secure them to the firewall with the help of overhead robotic assist arms. Next comes the headliner, then the carpet, then the door panels, each one pre-built at a sub-assembly station and delivered to the line in perfect sequence to match the specific truck being built. Because here's the thing, every F-150 on the line is different. One might be a base XL work truck with cloth seats and steel wheels. The very next one might be a fully loaded King Ranch with leather seats, premium audio, and every option available. The Dearborn truck plant builds these trucks in a totally mixed sequence, and every component, down to the last cup holder, has to arrive at the right station at exactly the right time. The seats themselves arrive sequenced, left and right, front and rear, and are robotically inserted through the open door frames. Power-assisted manipulators help workers position them without strain. Then the steering wheel goes in, the center console, the shifter, the carpets. By the end of the trim line, the interior of the F-150 is complete. Every button, every screen, every stitch in place. Segment 8, Tray Bed, Wheels, and Rollout. The next stop is what every truck buyer thinks about first, the bed. The F-150's tray bed is built on a separate subline, then lifted into position over the rear of the chassis and bolted down. With the bed mounted, the truck finally takes on its full recognizable silhouette. Wheels and tires come next. Each set is matched to the specific build sheet of that truck, whether it's a set of 17-inch steel wheels for a Work Spec XL or massive 22-inch alloys for a Platinum. Robotic torque drivers tighten every lug nut to a precise specification, and computer systems verify that each one is correctly torqued before the truck moves on. Now the F-150 is essentially complete: body, interior, drivetrain, wheels, bed. But it's not done yet, not by a long shot. Because before any F-150 leaves this plant, it has to prove it works. Segment 9, Final Q&A, Proving the Truck. Quality control at the Dearborn truck plant is intense. Every single truck, not a sample, not a percentage, but every single one, goes through a battery of final inspections and tests. It starts with fluid fills, oil, coolant, brake fluid, washer fluid, fuel. Then comes the first start. The engine is fired up for the very first time, and a technician monitors dozens of sensors to confirm everything is working. The truck then rolls onto a dynamometer, essentially a treadmill for vehicles, where it's tested at highway speeds. Brakes are checked, transmission shifts are verified, the four-wheel drive system is engaged, the traction control, stability control, and ABS are all run through their paces. After the dyno comes the water test. The truck drives slowly through a tunnel where it's blasted from every angle with high-pressure water jets, simulating decades of rainstorms compressed into a few minutes. Inspectors look inside with flashlights for any sign of a leak. If they find one, the truck is pulled off the line for repair. Wheel alignment is checked, headlights are aimed, body panel gaps are measured. The infotainment system is connected and tested. Every single function, every button, every light, every motor is verified. Only after passing all of these tests does the F-150 finally earn the right to drive off the line. Segment 10, the economic engine. Before we get to that final moment, let's talk about why this matters far beyond Dearborn. The F-Series isn't just America's best-selling vehicle, it's one of the most important products in the entire American economy. Ford has stated that F-Series production supports approximately 400,000 American jobs. That's roughly 11 jobs created for every single direct Ford employee assembling these trucks. Think about what that means. Steelworkers in Indiana, aluminum suppliers in Kentucky, tire manufacturers in the Carolinas, glass producers in Tennessee, electronics suppliers in Michigan and Ohio, truck drivers hauling parts, dealers selling and servicing the finished vehicles. The F-150 isn't just a vehicle, it's an industrial ecosystem. Spanning 16 plants across 4 states, the F-Series manufacturing network represents one of the largest concentrations of American industrial output. When the F-150 succeeds, hundreds of thousands of American workers and their families succeed with it. That's a level of economic impact almost no other consumer product can match. Segment 11. The Drive-Off. And so, after stamping, welding, painting, decking, trim, bed, wheels, and a final battery of tests, we arrive at the moment every F-150 is built for, the roll-off line. The truck, fully assembled, fully tested, fully complete, is started one final time. A driver climbs in, puts it in gear, and gently drives the F-150 off the end of the assembly line under its own power. For a brief moment, the truck pauses in the daylight, just outside the factory doors. It's the first time it's ever seen the sun. The first time its tires have touched real pavement instead of factory floor. Then it rolls forward, joins a holding lot with thousands of others just like it, and waits to be loaded onto a transport truck or a rail car, bound for one of thousands of Ford dealerships across America. Somewhere, a customer is about to take delivery of this exact truck. Maybe a contractor in Texas, a rancher in Wyoming, a family in Florida. They'll never see the robots that built it. They'll never meet the workers who assembled it. They'll never know about the 1,500 parts, the 16 plants, the 400,000 jobs that converged to make their truck possible. But every time they turn the key, they'll be driving a piece of American industrial history. The Dearborn truck plant has built tens of millions of F-Series trucks over the decades. And tomorrow morning, it'll start all over again, 53 seconds at a time. If you enjoyed this look inside America's most legendary truck factory, hit subscribe. We've got more deep dives into the world's most iconic vehicles and the factories that build them coming soon. Thanks for watching.